Okay, we're back, and we have our disassembled clarinet. We already did all the stuff we need to do, and now we're going to reassemble it. We're going to want the same tools as last time. I ended up with this clarinet. This is one of our Marriage Music clarinets. I ended up just using a 2mm for everything. They're universal screws. Sometimes, and I'll point this out, like these, the ends of these screws can be a lot larger. So, like you can see, hopefully, maybe, like this guy, it's not in focus, is it? Yeah, so like this guy here, sometimes they have a much larger hole on this side, and they sit in there. If you're frustrated, especially with old clarinets that are stuck or whatever, generally speaking, you want to use the largest diameter slotted screwdriver that you can. It's just going to make it easier for you. All right. As far as other tools we're going to need, we already talked about that. We have our spring hook. We're going to have to actively use this to spring things as we put it back in place. We need our flat nose pliers, smooth jaw flat nose pliers. And since we're putting it together, we're going to grease, right? Okay. So some sort of thick-ish grease. We don't want to use really thick because it could slow down the action. This general all-purpose grease is great for this. I've got a couple other things here. I've got a couple of pad slicks. Let's see where you can see those. Got a couple of pad slicks if I need them to hold something down or in place. And then I have a feeler gauge that I can use to test everything. Well, maybe I talk about that in another video, but as you get to, once you get familiar with the assembly, you're going to be doing all of those operations at the same time. This is just a practice to get you familiar with the assembly, but we will do all of this together. So we're going to do everything right in the backwards order from before. So I'm just going to move my upper joint stuff right out of the way, and I'm going to lay them out in the order. It's funny, they tend to go by twos. So we have those two levers, we have those two, we have the other two pinky table, the long ones. We have these two that sit on top of each other, and then we have our FC key. FC lever. Okay. So this guy is going on first. I'm going to move to the bigger view. And remember, these have the point. This one has a point pivot right there. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to squeeze like the tiniest little bit in there. Okay. Now, sometimes if they're bigger holes, sometimes they're deeper holes, it's okay to like pack this entire thing, depending on, you know, sometimes when they drill it out, even though the screw only goes to, you know, that far, they might drill it out that far in the factory. It's okay. You can, like, if this will go in, you can stick it in and then just keep holding the plunger down and pull it out. If you pack it with grease and then you go to tighten the screw is going to displace the grease, and all you're going to do is you're going to get a little oozing out the sides. Annoying, yes, and we don't want our new cleaned clarinet to get all greasy, but that's why we have Q-tips, we have paper towels. I would rather you know, I'd rather put in a thick and heavy grease and fill it completely, because I don't know when this customer is going to bring it back, okay? And so if this stuff is drying out over time, I'd rather there be an abundance in there so we know that it's not going to get dry and seize up. So I left this screw in accidentally from last time, and we have this, let's get to the overhead view. So let's see right here, this spring. Actually, maybe I'll try right here. Yes. Yes, okay, so you can see this spring right here. And both sides are packed with grease. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need to make sure that this little spring cradle is going to engage there, but I also have to line up that hole. Now, if it doesn't look like I can do this without lining it up, right, and it looks like I can't get it back far enough. Either I have to hold this over here and then do it, but the chances are if I pull this out, it looks like the spring is too short. That means, guess what? This screw is going to have to get backed off anyway, okay? It would have been the safer thing to take it out, but I forgot, because if this was sitting in an ultrasonic, it really could just, vibration could work itself out. And then you have to go fishing for a tiny screw that's been sitting in acid until you realize that it's been sitting in acid. So I left just a little bit sticking out there now so that I can, there we go, you see this? And I'm going to just grab that side and I'm going to hold it right there. Now, now I know the spring is engaged, okay? Now I'm going to bring this to the other side, okay? And I have to keep pressure because this screw isn't tight all the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it right where it lines up and get this side in. Okay. That looks good. Now, I have this side to do because I backed it out somewhat, right? There we go. It's kind of dark in here, and I hope I can fix that in post. All right, so that's in there. Now, remember when we packed it with grease? Look at that. And it is sprung. Remember? But it's not moving now. Okay? Why? Because there's a lot of grease in there. Okay? We're going to go ahead. It should be. I'm going to. Here, I'll press this down. So, see, there's my range of motion. Should go down. And then when I let go, it should go back up. But it's not. Anyway. So what I'm going to do is, and I may have just really, I tightened this all the way, right? So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a turn there. And then I'm going to give this one a little bit of a turn. There. Oh, look at that. All right. So getting pretty close. And at this point, I'm just going to wiggle it a little bit, work some of that grease out. Yeah, see, already that's great. And again, is the grease overkill? Maybe, but again, we don't know how long it's going to be. See, now even if I do tighten it, see? So I worked just enough of the grease out by wiggling it and loosening it and retightening it that even when it's tight now, it's not going to bind. Which means that that grease went somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and get around this side here, wipe that off, and then same thing over here on this side. Okay, all done. Right. So that guy's done. Next we have these. We have our B flat F. Now this is a cool, remember we decided this one, on this model, usually these are pivots, but this one actually has a hinge rod. So the ones with a hinge rod, and you'll see this when we do the other one, I'm just going to make a big ball kind of right there. I'm going to swirl it around and then just push it in the side. Okay. Now when I'm going to grab the rod before I put it on. Okay. And I'm just going to twist it back and forth as I do that and just work the grease all the way through. Okay. Oh, it's nice and smooth. I love it. Okay, so back to this view here. Remember we have this spring and it's close to the body, so what we're going to want to do is we're going to put it on the far side and grab it here and push it into place. Just get it as close as we can. Just a little bit of wiggling. And once I can start putting this in, now I can wiggle that a little bit until it ends up going where it wants to go. Okay, got that in. Okay, I lost a camera. Something isn't lining up here. There we go. Hey, there we go. It's engaged now. Going so slow through this, I'm forgetting steps. Right, now I'm just going to go ahead and clean off anything where grease could have been. Cool. All right, so that one is sprung and ready to go. Next we have the 3-ring key, which sits right on top of that. And remember, this one will spring after it goes into place. So again, I'm going to put just a little bit. These are tiny holes on this clarinet, and sometimes we have much bigger and deeper pivot holes. Really like these clarinets. Okay, so that guy's going to go right in here. That's sitting about right. And remember, this side is going to be our upper screw, and that's our lower screw. I'll put the upper one in. Flip that around, and now remember that spring still is coming up against there even though it's not in the cradle, so I am always just like keeping a little bit of pressure on that so that I keep it aligned to where the hole is going to be. Again, that one's in there. Good. That looks good. We got a nice tension on that. And then we're going to take that spring hook and go ahead and just latch that into the spring cradle. Looks great. Okay, great. So next we have our F sharp, C sharp. That's this guy right here. It's going to come back here, and this is one of the two keys that's actually sprung closed on the lower joint. And remember, we're going to have to come in from this side to get this spring because it does sit so low to the body down here. I don't know if you can see it. sits pretty low to the body. So I didn't forget, we're going to grease it. Great. All right, flip this guy back around, and I'm going to grab it from this side, engage that spring. You see that? Engage that, and I'm going to slide this whole thing kind of up into position. So on this side we have that screw, that's the lower, right? This guy, lower. Put that in, and I'm keeping my fingers on there to keep it in position against that spring tension. It's a pretty strong tension spring, right? And same thing, I don't want to let go of it until the other side is also sprung. So I'm going to flip hands and keep the tension on that right there. Now you see right here, this is a double post. There's an upper and a lower. The F sharp, C sharp is that lower one down there. And then this guy conveniently gets in the way every time too. So as we grab this, I have to push down there, get that into the hole, get it started, and then same thing, I'm going to have to push this down with my screwdriver as I engage that. And get that guy going. Get in there. Look at that. That's beautiful. And it doesn't look like, well, maybe just a little bit on this side. So I'm just going to grab a Q-tip. Grab that. Okay. All done. Okay. Next one we have the EB, just sits right on top. Again, we don't spring it until after, so super easy. Go. Okay. May go a little overboard on the grease. Okay. This guy will sit right on top of that F sharp, C sharp right there. Okay. Doesn't matter which one first, but I'm going to go on this side because I'm already holding it that way. Love it. There's one, and I'll flip it around and get this last one back here. Cool. I don't know if you can see it, but there was a little bit of oozing on that one. So I'm going to grab, get all that grease off of there. Great. Okay. Now we have the spring to deal with. I'll flip that over, grab my spring hook. It's the easy one, and we just grab it and put it back in that cradle right there. Cool. And there we go. Okay, so now we just have these two. We have our FC and then our A flat, E flat. Remember, those both have springs that go that direction. So as we put the key on, we're going to have to make sure we drop the spring cradle on the far side and then pull it back into position. Okay, or we can drop them straight down, put the rod in, and then try to go under there and fish it under and whatever. But like I said, there's not a lot of space here. So I think it's going to be to our advantage to hold it in place behind the spring and then just bring it up into alignment. this one is on a rod, so I'm gonna put a little bit in there, and then this one goes this way. Remember, we want to put it in the direction that the rod is going to go. Okay, there. Take the rod and just get that a little right there. That looks good. Ooh, made a big mess. That's okay. Grease is easy to clean, and it's already apart, so this is your best time to do that. Okay, so now remember we have this this guy here is called the crow's foot on the FC, and that has to come in between those two levers first. Okay, and now that we have that, that can sit, if you can see, maybe right here, and I can start putting this in. Now it looks like that spring just goes a little further than I want it to, so I'm just going to grab that spring hook, make sure it's on the proper side. There it is. Okay. So I can start pushing that through. And then once it stops wiggling, we know it's hit this midpoint post. Okay. See, now it's not wiggling anymore. So now we know we can grab this guy. Now this has that touch piece and it's going over a bunch of stuff here. So again, we're going to have to be careful how we set this in. And we'll set it right there. And again, I'm going to push up and back and then grab the spring hook and reach back there and engage that. So you can see if I go to push on it, it's going to push back, and that's how I know I did it. So now all I have to do is just kind of put some pressure on it to line up the tube. It takes a little bit of getting used to. Okay, and then once I can get this side of it, as I start pushing through the screw head, that'll kind of hold it in position, and then I can just keep jiggling it a little bit, and yep, see, and that went all the way to the threads on the far post. Okay, so that's screwed all the way in. Okay, to check your work, you want to make sure that when you press your FC, that bounces back up, and when you press your A flat, E flat, that bounces back up. That way we know we sprung them the right way. Okay, just two left, and that's our two levers here. These sometimes have just like a little ledge, and they sit underneath there, and there's a piece of cork. On this one and some buffet models, you'll have like a pin that actually goes into these sockets. Okay, it looks like, yeah, these have like a little protective plastic layer on there, so I know they're not going to click too much, but I'm just going to, like, just the tiniest little bit of grease on the ends of the two of those, and then I'm going to hold it about where they would be. Same thing here, put a tiny little bit of grease there, tiny little bit right there. It's a very short piece. Now I can, when I put this through, I have to line it up with those two holes. So the end of each rod has to go, you can see it, maybe into, here, I'll just put one so you can see it first. See these holes right here? And they're going to have to go in there. Okay, so now grab both. Okay, so make sure that one's lined up, that one's lined up. See that? They're both in now on that end. And then I can take these two and rotate those into position so that they're ready. And remember, this one is the F sharp, C sharp, this one is E, B. So F sharp, C sharp is this guy here. EB is right there. Again, if you have to just wiggle it a little bit to get everything lined up, that's great. And then we screw these two in. One. And two. Look at that. So we have our fully functioning lower joint. Everything's sprung, everything works, we love it, everything's clean and lubricated. Alright, so next we're going to do our upper joint. Just move all this stuff around and prep this back into position. I'm short on space, so I moved them before, but they kind of go in pairs, right? We have the register with the thumb ring. Right. And then B flat C, or F sharp, E flat. Let's see. Yep. Our A and E flat. The two long, the AD ring key and the F sharp ring key, and then our two little side keys, G sharp and B flat. So this one is. This goes together pretty fast here. So we'll start with B flat. I'm going to, oh yeah. So B flat's right here, and it's going that way. See, there's a spring there, so I'm gonna put it on this side and bring it that way. The screw goes in this side, so I just wanna make sure that I'm putting the grease in the right side. Looks good. Just spin that, run it through. Great. Okay. Grab that and make sure that spring cradle is latching that spring. See that? I have that tension, spring tension on there. And then just line it up. Stick this guy in. There. And this will get the rest of the way. There we go. Tighten that up. Yeah. I'm also just wiggling it back and forth. You can do that as you're putting it together, and that just helps work in that grease a little more. All right. Make sure you have nothing sticking out so we don't get our clean clarinet all greasy. Next one is our G sharp, C sharp. And you can see the spring is that way, so we have to put it here and then push it that way. Okay. Going to put a little grease. Love it. Work that in. Love it. Okay. Now here's where I'm going to come on this side and make sure I have engaged. See that? See that? Wants to push back on me. So I know I have that spring tension. And that's going to go in the lower of that double post. And go all the way till there. We tighten that guy up. Okay. Great. Again, checking for grease. Get all that grease out of there. Cool. All right, so that's it. Next we have our two long guys. This is the point pivot one. Remember, this is solid shaft except for the two pilot holes here. So I'm going to put a tiny little bit there, tiny little bit there. And then actually I'm going to go ahead with the AD ring key. This one has the hinge that also serves as the point pivot on the other one. So this guy right here, AD ring, and just gonna spin that, work that in. That looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on halfway, so we can see there's a spring right there. I can latch it later. Not worried about it. If you're lazy, you can just latch it right now as you put it on, but not necessary. Okay. I've lined that up so it's sitting in the hole. Now I don't want to over tighten it, because if I go too far, then the point is going to come out on this side, and I still have to get this guy in there. So again, I'm going to put that there. This is one that I am not going to spring unless it would be better if I just sprung it afterwards. So now that I have that lined up, now I will go ahead and put that rod in the rest of the way. There we go. Looks like it's going in. Great. Love it. And so now we have the other side to do. I did latch that spring. Sometimes it runs into the side F sharp post, and it really wants to be sprung as you're assembling it. This one, it doesn't really matter. It looks like I could do it afterwards. It's just a habit of mine. So I'm going to just kind of hold this in place and line that up there. Grab my F sharp, point pivot screw, and screw that in. Okay. Now we notice. Remember how it was sprung? Ugh. So that means either I over tightened it or there's a little too much grease. So I'm just gonna loosen this and wiggle it. Okay. Wiggle, wiggle. Looks good. Yeah, see, already it's better. But I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side too, right? Because we don't want it to bind. And then I'm gonna just wiggle back and forth a little bit, and then I can retighten it. Looks great. That is good action, and see how it's not going to move anywhere? That's why I like packing those with grease. Alright, so I'm just going to clean that all up. Cool. Alright, so next we have our A and our A flat. And remember from before, the A flat sits over the A. So as we do this, A has to go on first. This one has a flat spring, so I can just push it straight down. Don't forget to grease. Okay. I'm going to push this down just to get it out of my way, but not necessary. Okay. There. Wiggle it. Push it in. This one I will screw in. I know I took them both out at the same time, but I'm not going to tighten them both at the same time because this gives me the opportunity before I put that on to get any grease that shot out of the end of there. Okay, great. Okay, next is that A flat key. Get that a little bit grease. Great. And spinny spin. No, nice and smooth. Love it. Okay. This one, that spring, see, is like sitting, I don't see it, but sitting way out there. And it's low to the body, so this is one where I'm going to come on the far side right there and make sure I grab that and then pull that in while it's under spring tension. Okay, great. So put that in there. There it goes. Love it. And then I can tighten this. Beautiful. Okay, so next we have those 4 side keys. Remember the ones that had the 4 guys that stick off the end. Now, it's interesting, if you look on the assembly board, see how they were all kind of like written in a row? That's because when you assemble and disassemble them, if you look, if I put this in first, the B and the C assembly, I'm gonna have a hard time like fitting this in too, right? So I'm actually going to these kind of have to go in at the same time, see, because this one goes over, there's an over and an under. So I'm going to hold them all in place and then just double check where those flat springs are here. Make sure they're sitting in their pockets. And push down and then start, just going to work that until I get it all lined up. And that one wants to bind just a little bit, so try that again. Hold it here. I'm going to come back from a little further back. There we go. Put that down. Now I'm going to grab my F sharp. That's this guy here. Start to line up that hinge tube. There we go. Looks like that's going to go in just fine. Yep. And now, see that? That's kind of just holding that B flat and C trill key in place. So I can grab that. And put just a little bit of grease in there. I'm always wiggling as I put this stuff in. And just helps the screw find its hole, and then also just, you know, it's not going to hurt to just work in that grease as much as we can. The number one problem with these instruments is that they seize up. They are machines, and machines have to be oiled. So always watching out for that. Okay, got my F sharp in the rest of the way. Okay, great. So this last one is just that E flat. This one's a little easier. Sometimes if that flat spring is super long, you might end up using, like, I can start feeding it under that G sharp, C sharp. But if it's catching, I could go through here with a spring hook and just grab it and guide it. I don't need to, but the option's there if you need it. Okay. So thing here, drop a tiny little bit, line that up. There's my B flat. That goes in. Oops. Okay. That looks great. And look at that. We have all four of those on. Great. So that just leaves these two. We have our CF thumb ring and our register key. CF thumb ring goes right here. And put a little touch of grease. Okay. And then remember, this is holding it down, so I'm going to press that down so I have room. And then that can just drop right in between, and that ring goes over the thumb hole. And there we go. Wiggle, wiggle. There it goes. Okay. Last one is our register key. Goes right there. Again, this one is easy to clean the grease up on, and it's also like one of the most used keys. So I will put extra grease in there because it's going to be really easy to clean up when it comes out the other side. But anything that helps silence makes it a little quieter when you're playing the instrument, so you don't hear all that clicking. Musicians appreciate that, and band directors certainly appreciate that too. Okay, so that is all the way in, and now we have everything. I'm just going to clean up that grease there. There we go. So we have our upper joint all reassembled. We have our lower joint all reassembled and ready to go for checking for leaks, play testing, any of that stuff. Awesome.